Welcome to WagerTalk's last call, live from my Aunt Helen's spare bedroom with the really awesome football wallpaper. I decided that I was going to do all my shows in here this morning because, well, hello, this shit's electric. Also, the house phone keeps ringing. I don't know who's calling or why anybody still owns a house phone in 2024, but I'm already apologizing in advance for that or any dog barks or if Ariel Epstein comes in and interrupts the show. Back-to-back weekends. We've got DiCesare behind the scenes at the Westgate Superbook. We've got Yanni the Greek, and then we've got Bryan Powers taking all your questions. Guys, we have 57 minutes until kickoff. So make sure you jump in the chat, drop all of your questions, whether it's for Art, whether it's for Yanni, or whether it's for Bryan. We're going to get to them. Also, while you're there, hit that like button. Appreciate all of you guys that subscribed. Last week, we got over 180,000 followers. I don't even care about 190. We need to get to 200,000, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss another show. DiCesare, I forgot my lucky pen and notebook, so I am not texting like I do on the Kelly and Murray show. I am putting in the notes app all of the big needs, big bets, and wants from you guys over there at the Westgate Superbook, where you can always bet. My 109.
Yeah, no doubt, Kelly. It's good to be here as always. Yeah, it's a good weekend. It's not a great weekend, but obviously there's a lot of games going on this week. Early needs, if you want some early needs, so obviously these 9 a.m. games, we're going to need UVA. A lot of UNC money. Took UNC money at 5, took UNC money at 4. We're as low as 3 on UVA. We're now back to 3.5. Navy's going to be a big need. It's been Notre Dame money all week, 11.5, 12.5, all the way up to 14. We're going to need Indiana, which Indiana's been great. So it's probably a good thing for us, but there has been Washington money. Obviously, Indiana playing with the backup quarterback. But, Indiana didn't stop them last week. They kept rolling. And sharp money, it's not a need, but it's something that needs to be said, is took Charlotte sharp money, plus 19, plus 18 at Memphis in the early slate.
All right, well, the game that I care about that's not in the early slate, but we'll attack the elephant in the room. I asked John Murray on Kelly and Murray this week, I go, okay, who bet Kansas plus 10? And he goes, well, they didn't. And all morning, I've done 3 shows back-to-back, Art. I got all 3 hosts on Kansas plus 10. I got all my friends texting me I took Kansas plus 10. Let's get the elephant out of the room early. I want to know, is it just all K-State money? I mean, obviously, right?
Well, I will say this. Now, John might have not seen the bet, but we did take a big Kansas bet from a sharp player. Now, is it someone we necessarily move crazy off of or book to or want to need the side of? No. But it's a guy that, we respect, and it's not like the market blew up after he bet the plus 10. So it kind of was a stay for us. We moved half a point and then basically went back to where we were. So we did take some sharp money on Kansas. So I don't want to say we didn't. But like I said, it wasn't something where we had to go and say, all right, now we got Kansas 9. We didn't do that.
All right. So whenever we talk about splits over there at the Westgate, there's 2 different types, right? Well, actually, there's more than 2, but just for basic conversational purposes, there's the splits on the side, and then there's the splits on the money line, right? Because you're going to see K-State in a lot of money line parlays. And I'm right now in Kansas, so I have a legal book here that says 97% of the action is on Kansas State. But that's from a money line perspective, right? Like I'm not seeing anybody else reporting that, and I'm going, wait, this is a little bit of fake news. When you talk about these splits from your behind-the-counter perspective, what are we talking about?
No, you're right, and that is something. I'll just jump to a game where it's got similar a feel to it. It's a way bigger spread, but if Florida State can upset Miami today, that would be huge. There is enough. There's nothing on the side, Kelly, right? Like, no one's laying 21, no one's taking 21. But Miami is in every 6, 8, and 10 team money line parlay. They just are. They're in all of them. So when you look at those numbers, you're like, wow, that Miami parlay liability is really skewed because it's just one leg of everybody's parlay today. So if FSU can ever get the outright win, that'd be huge for us.
Oh my God, wouldn't that just save their season? Like my buddy is an FSU fan is in a lot of pain right now. And I try to
Yeah.
refrain from giving him too much shit, but man, it would be tough to be an FSU fan right now. Okay, let's go into some of the afternoon games, some of the top 25 games, what you guys are seeing there at the Westgate Superbook.
Yeah, well, when we get to like the later slate, Baylor was a huge one for us. We took Baylor money all week. Obviously, Oklahoma State's got some injuries, but you saw Baylor -4, Baylor -4.5, all the way up to 6.5 now against Oklahoma State. Alabama game, very interesting. That was a 13.5 opener. Got all the way as high as 18.5 because the Missouri quarterback was quote unquote ruled out. But then stuff came over today saying that he's going to give it a go and probably play in the game. So that number went all the way back. It didn't get to the opener of 13.5, but it's now Alabama -14.5. So you saw the flood of Alabama money early, then the buyback on Missouri. Obviously, we don't want to get middled on the game, so we got to really keep the game out of the 14 to 17 point range. That would not be good for us. TCU, Texas Tech, interesting. Sharps on both sides. Respected groups on both sides. Laid 6 with TCU, took 6.5 with Texas Tech. So that's a game where it's really good split action. Saw a lot of Iowa money come in, -13.5, all the way up to 15. A little bit of nibble on the other side this morning. So it's now Iowa -14.5.
All right, a couple of square dogs this week. Oh, how perfect. Elm Street just took the question out of my mouth. I need to know, because I love to look for these double-digit outright underdogs, right? You mentioned Brady Cook giving it a go. Mizzou ended up being my play at 14, went all the way up to 17.5, as you mentioned, now back. But there's a couple other dogs that I had on my long list. Illinois, Navy. Talk to me about both of those games, because I'm going, oh, wait a minute. Both these guys might be on the square side of things. And when we call something a square dog, that means the public is backing them, and typically more of the tickets, and you're seeing a lot more action on the money line, which typically doesn't happen with recreational bettors.
Yeah, no doubt. Just to touch on the Navy Notre Dame game again. Yeah, like I said, it was nothing but Notre Dame money early in the week, 11.5, 12.5, all the way to 14 now. And we really haven't had anyone want to come on the other side and take 14. Normally, when you get to that 2-touchdown number, there is a little bit of buyback. No one has bought back on the game. Obviously, the Oregon-Illinois game, that's a huge spread. Oregon Open -21.5. We saw some Oregon money that's trickled us up now to 22.5. Has not been any buy for us on Illinois at that large number. We'll probably need Illinois in the game as we stand right now.
Interesting. So one of the things I want you guys, we can talk about the Ole Miss line here in 1 second. One of the things I want to talk about is, so when I get a look from behind the counter of John Murray on the Kelly and Murray show, this is specific to Superbook Nevada, right? So whether you're looking at some of these more national books or whether you're looking at your local book, as far as these splits go. So he told me Thursday night, shockingly, we're going to need the Vikings. And I go, what? You guys are going to need the Vikings? Everybody else needs the Rams. So kind of remember that, guys. We're talking with Art DiCesare, Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas. So just because they actually need Illinois, that's an interesting dynamic, because I've heard on the other side that some bookmakers need Oregon. So kind of keep that with a grain of salt. But let's talk this Ole Miss game. Oklahoma absolutely in shambles. But is somebody betting them?
Man, they are in shambles. They got destroyed last week at home against South Carolina. The interesting thing about this, the one thing I'll say is we don't talk a lot of totals, but a lot of public money on the over. Sitting at a total of 49, 49.5. So a lot of people taking that over. Was there initial money on Oklahoma during the week? Sure, at 20.5, 21. Yeah, I mean, now you're seeing Ole Miss basically 20. But it's not something that is a huge need for us. I'd say more of the need is actually the under on the game because of the public bettors who are coming in and seeing an offense like Ole Miss have a low total like that and figuring maybe they could put up 50 themselves with a total in the 49, 49.5 range.
I think that's crazy. Ole Miss is a dead-on under team, 6-1 to the under this season. I can't believe people are going in there. And the only thing that I can say anything nice about would be Oklahoma's defense. I'm actually shocked to see people going there on the over. Let's talk about a game that I like, which has a very, very high total. I am completely floored with this one. But North Texas, Tulane's going to Denton. And it's the highest total on the board this week. And that's because, like I said last week when I like North Texas, they don't play very good defense. Talk to me about this one. Is this a number you guys marched out because you knew automatically you were going to get over money? I mean, I told everybody like 67.5, and when you guys hung 70 and a half, I thought, what?
Yeah, and when you get that high, it's funny. The public, obviously, we just talked. They want to take overs. They normally don't want to take overs in that range. But when you put a number that big out there, and like you said, 70.5, we might even touch 71 at some point. When I came in this morning, we were back to 70. We took some bets on 70, went to 69.5. So that's a total that you're really only going to see some more educated bettors say, hey, I'm going to take a shot on this under because it's too high of a number. My numbers make it, like you said, maybe 67, 68. So I'm going to take a shot with a 2 or 3 point kind of middle there where they're like, well, this is too high. So we saw that, and that's why it's come down, basically moved a 1.5 to the under.
All right, well, this is a college football show, but you are a Yankees fan. The lady sitting across from me, waiting patiently for me to finish the show so we can start tailgating at K-State KU, is a Yankees fan. Last night's game was absolutely crazy. Grand slam to go over the total. I thought the Yankees had that one won. Talk to me about game 2. Are you guys seeing early bets coming in? What are your thoughts as the resident Yankees fan there at the Superbook?
Well, first, let me say I hate Aaron Boone. And second, when we put these lines out, and I'm sure you've talked to John about it, and I've said it on WagerTalk. Kelly, we're dealing a 5-cent line. And when you're dealing a 5-cent line in a World Series matchup like this, you're going to get tremendous two-way action. You just are. You're going to get really nice action on the dog and the favorite. Total has been bet again. We took a lot of over money on game 1 last night. That grand slam made it go over, so we got killed on that over. It was not great for us, and we're seeing over money again today. So with the 5-cent line, you see really good two-way action, and you're seeing over money. It's basically the way it was bet in game 1. A little bit more Dodger money. Today, probably a little bit more Dodger money as well, and we'll need the under in the game. I know that much.
All right, going to need the under in game 2. I missed the memo. Apparently, Ariel and John Murray were texting in our group chat about taking the Yankees for the series because that was going to be the need. Obviously, you guys have close proximity to LA. I'm sure there's tons of Dodgers fans. Obviously, Yankees, another national fan base. But I was like, okay, I'm going to bet it with you guys. Then I didn't. And I'm like, oh, good, they lost game 1. Now I can bet them at a better price. Would you recommend doing that, or am I maybe a little off here and that the Yankees can win this World Series?
Well, obviously they have to win today. We know that. But yeah, you're getting a really nice price. You're getting Yankees plus 220. I mean, if you like the Yankees before game 1, now listen, it's a brutal way to lose game 1. They used a ton of their bullpen guys. You waste a great start from Cole. So obviously it's a bad way to lose game 1. But if they go and win today, they go home for 3 games. The series is right back in their hands. And that price gets probably right back to where the opening number was, or maybe even in a pick'em range. That series price was 125, 130. They win today with the 3 home games. You're probably looking at, minus 115 Dodgers or even a pick'em. So, yeah, I think if you like the Yankees and you like them in the series, now's the time to take them.
All right, Art Dice 21 on all your social media channels. Art DiCesare joins us every single Saturday from the Westgate Superbook. We appreciate him. Appreciate all of you guys being in the chat, dropping your questions. We're going to bring in Yanni the Greek. And I had too much coffee this morning, so I'm going to go take 90 seconds, and I'm just going to let him go. Every single Saturday, he comes on and he drops that gold, kind of reiterates what we saw on Wednesday. And VR, let's let the dog off the leash. What do you got for me, my man?
First, save that money on the Yankees. It's the Dodgers series. They're going to win this series, so save that money. Just telling you now. Going to disappoint.
Don't let them plus you 20.
I'm a Yankees fan, actually. I bet the Dodgers. I bet the Dodgers big. Yeah, they win this series.
Okay.
I just got beat in an MMA UFC fight, so I'm a little bit mad because when I went through a decision, I was minus 2,100 to get the decision, and I just got robbed as all 3 judges gave the other guy the decision at a plus 195 dog that I hit. So forgive me, a little bit pissed off. But with that said, I got nothing but winners for you. Let me get these first half team totals out of the way because they just came in right now through the bot. So if you could get down on these always do well. Florida, these are all first half team totals. Florida State under 10.5 up to -1, under 7.5, up to -130. Georgia Tech under 10.5 up to -130. Appalachian State under 17.5 up to -125. Kentucky under 10.5 up to -125. Troy under 10.5 up to -125. Michigan under 10.5 up to -120. Maryland under 10.5 up to -130. And Oklahoma State under 14.5 up to -125. You straight bet those. They're plus EV, all of them. You should come out ahead. Now let's get through some of these sides and totals that are definitely legit steam moves going into today's college football. Start off with UCF. We talked about them all week. Central Florida on the money line. Central Florida minus the points. There's been no resistance against Central Florida. Also early money. North Carolina, that's been getting steamed all week. We saw a little bit of Virginia -3 resistance come in today, and then immediately North Carolina got hit again. So Carolina definitely looks like the side there. Virginia Tech bet up all the way up to -11. One-sided public money on Georgia Tech. So I think the books are actually going to need the Virginia Tech side there. Notre Dame, another early game. A lot of sharp money on Notre Dame and the under. Looks like the over, but it was the look ahead that I think was 45.5. They opened it at about 50.5, went up a little bit. That's when the steam came in. It's under 50.5 is the move there on Notre Dame. Also, Washington at +6 and 5.5. A couple more moves for you. Texas Tech plus the 6. LSU, I gave that to you earlier in the week. They took them on the money line. They took them plus the points as well. North Texas, they're taking the 8 on North Texas. I don't like that one as the home dog against Tulane. I sat that one out. Alabama laid the 16.5 and 17 against Missouri. Arizona on the money line. We know that. Go down to Oregon, -3 touchdowns against Illinois. And, of course, Hawaii on the money line in that late game. Also, I don't think I gave you Washington over Indiana. That's in the early game. Like I said, they took the 6 on Washington, 5.5 and 5 on the Washington side. So those are some of the college football sides and totals that I could confirm are legit. And, yeah, like I said, a lot of MMA, a lot of got baseball today. So a lot of betting action for us today on Saturday.
No, I'm not muted.
You're
I'm not
muted.
muted.
You're muted.
No, I'm
One
not.
more
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Nope, I'm
All
not
right, now I
muted.
hear it.
I'm looking right at it. I'm looking right at it. I don't know if our producers
Baylor?
muted me in the background. No. Can you hear me, VR?
Yeah. I hear you
Okay.
perfectly.
I was gonna say I'm not muted because I never muted it. It's green. So I don't know who muted me in the background. I get it. I was talking to Ariel, you off screen. You didn't need to hear that conversation. She didn't like your Yankees
I'm sorry. I
analysis.
love Ariel. You know that.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I didn't want to say that. I just, you know me. I tell it like it is. I wish I could say I like the Yankees, but I got a Dodger ticket in my pocket.
Listen, and I get that, and I respect that, and that's the difference. You got to take the emotion out of it because that's what we're doing here. All right, so JT wants to know about Baylor. This one got bet up a lot, and Art DiCesare said they saw early Baylor money. If there's a 7, I want to be on Oklahoma State. I want to be on Gundy, but God, the way they lost that Friday night game in Provo makes that kind of gut-wrenching. It makes it very difficult. Baylor, I was not that impressed. Sure, they go and they run it up against Texas Tech last week. What are your thoughts? You seeing anything on your side? I mean, VR, it's too late to bet Baylor at this point.
Yeah, I think so, but it looked like a favorite or pass situation for me, and I think I could see sharp better sitting back and waiting to get that +7 on the Oklahoma State side. I just saw a lot of early sharp money on Baylor and haven't seen any of those guys that laid the Baylor side looking to take the points on the Oklahoma State side. Usually when they get down an early number and it gets down near a key number, they're going to take a little bit of that position off. Just because, again, you have a nice middle, but I just don't see any of that here. And that's what scares me if you are waiting to take that +7, especially against a team that just continues to lose and coming off a heartbreaking 3-point loss at BYU last week where they got the cover. To me, I think it's a favorite or pass situation. Like you said, I missed the number on Baylor, so I haven't bet that. I'm not touching that game, but I like Baylor or pass.
All right. We'll take a couple more questions from the chat. We'll get you out of here. What time are you doing the steam room today?
Yeah, tomorrow. We're waiting for because of UFC started real early today, like 7 a.m., Kelly. I'm just doing it on Sunday so we can go over every NFL game like usual because a lot of props have been coming in too during the steam room and a lot of those team totals that have been doing well.
Yes, you will be able to catch VR on the NFL edition of Last Call tomorrow. I will not be here. It's going to be the Prez. I apologize in advance. I planned accordingly. We're going to have a lot of chuckle today and probably some Viva Seltzer. So I was like, you know what? I want to go see some of my hometown friends instead of work. So shout out to the Prez for filling in for me there. Shout out to VR, who always comes in hot. John Murray's going to have a list of games for you guys as well. But Bryan Orshner, do you like Indiana -5? VR, I have 6.5 in pocket with Washington. The whole world is on Indiana. Tell me I'm going to get this outright win.
You're on the right side. You're so on the right side. I'm on Washington. I like Washington on the money line as well. Kelly, I don't think there's any home field advantage for Indiana. Yeah, they're 5-0 at home, but they're undefeated on the road too. So show me 0-2 at home, 5-0. 2-0 at home, 0-2 on the road, then you got a home field advantage. But when you're undefeated at home, undefeated on the road, there ain't no home field advantage there. Give me Washington all day, who hasn't won a road game yet, so they have a strong home field advantage. But I think this is just way too many points for Indiana, who I think is just too highly ranked. I talked about it earlier in the week on Bet On It. I know I got a lot of heat for how I talked about my rankings, but rest assured, when the dust settles at the end of the year, save it. I do believe it ages very well, because it's a popularity contest early on. This Indiana team, phony as a $3 bill. They are not a top 10 team. They're not a top 15 team. Washington gets the win in Indiana today.
All right, let's talk about my game. K-State, KU. I asked Art about it as well. I brought Errol Epstein back because I thought this was going to be a really great game. We booked this game back in July, and now KU's just 2-5. I have plus 500 in pocket, but if you haven't seen that story, go over to my Twitter. Former producer of mine gave me 5-1 last December. So I have no reason to bet this game, but I have been getting everyone. I mean, real handicappers, fake handicappers, sharp friends, semi-sharp friends. Everybody's like, KU +10, KU +10. And I'm going, you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing here. Not only from the eye test, yes, KU's in a lot of one-score games. K-State's going to run the score up if given the opportunity, similar to how James Franklin likes to do. VR, I mean, is it all K-State money?
Yeah, it's been nothing but K-State money. The public's on K-State as well. I like the under. I really do. I haven't bet the under. I just think as it creeps up, if it gets up to like that 56, 57 range, I don't think it will. That's the side I was looking at. It opened at 56, dropped down to like 54.5. Now the public's betting it a little bit up again. But I like that early sharp money on the under. I think that's the right side. Usually if you like the under, you probably like the double digits on the dog, but I don't like this dog with double digits. That much is for sure. I think Kansas State shuts them down. I have gun the head. I think it's Kansas State and under. I think they get the cover, and I think they keep the game under because they shut Kansas down. But the best bet for me on that, if I have to bet it, it's under. I like the under in that game.
Ooh. All right. Well, I've been saying 42-21 all week. Maybe I'll just start saying 42-10. Okay, here's a good one. I gave out on another show this week. I love taking the unranked favorite at home. I laid early with UCF. I laid -120. Here's the question, though. At this point in time, we're starting to see threes, mainly 2.5s on the WagerTalk odds screen, VR. But you can't bet UCF now, right? I mean, you had an opportunity early in the week as a short dog. Now they're a short favorite. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, you can't because even on the money line now, you got to play upwards of -140 to take Central Florida. And again, they opened as the underdog, so you never want to be betting from the position of weakness. And that's what you're doing when you're betting at the very end, at the close, and taking the side that the line's already moved in their direction. Doesn't mean they're going to lose. Doesn't mean you're not going to cash a ticket, but you got to go in knowing you're not getting the best of it. If you could get +2.5 earlier in the week, +1.5 earlier in the week, plus money earlier in the week, and now you're laying 2, 2.5, 3, you know going in, you're not getting the best of it. So if you're betting it, you better have a ton of conviction to bet Central Florida and not care about laying a premium. Personally, I don't like to be in that position. I guess Central Florida earlier in the week, I wouldn't urge anyone to bet it at -2.5 or lay that money line, but I do think they're the right side. I think they beat BYU at home. Again, BYU got that squeaker of a win last week. I don't think they survive in Central Florida this week. Give me Central Florida and lay the small spot, but I just don't think there's enough EV there because you got to lay juice at 2.5 right now. Better bets on the board than that one, but I do like the favorite there.
All right, VR, you and I are aligned. Tell everybody what you got up over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, I got the college football board up. Card's still available. UFC went off, gave 5% there. In NFL, I think I'm 5-2 now on 5% plays. Looking to fire one there on Sunday, but busy weekend. We got Major League Baseball. I have a series bet on the Dodgers. Haven't decided if I'm going to fire in game 2. I do like them again tonight, but it's kind of like a free roll since we have them for the series. We'll see what we're going to do. But again, head on over. Steam Room tomorrow for the NFL, and hope you do some damage today. Thanks again, Kel, for having me on.
Always love to do damage with VR every single Saturday and Sunday here on WagerTalk's Last Call. He will be back tomorrow with the Prez and Steve Merrill taking all your questions. Last but not least, let's bring in my good friend Bryan Power, the lover of all the ugly dogs like myself. BP, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good, especially because Boston College held on. Why can't a game just be easy? I knew when they were up 20-0, Kelly, it was not going to be easy. I said it's fluky how they've got up. This team stinks. It was the worst play calling I've ever seen in the second half. I was so afraid of pitchy, woo-woo, trademark Scott Van Pelt. At the end of the I was like, they're going to throw an interception. This is going to go very poorly. That did not happen. We covered wire to wire. It was one of the most nerve-wracking wire-to-wire covers in some time, but we're 13-2 now, our last 15 in college football. Go back to last season, 42-18, our last 60. Number 1 in college football at WagerTalk this season. So I would say I'm doing pretty good.
I love that. And that is why you're here. We bring you guys the very best handicappers every single Saturday and Sunday on Last Call because they're kicking ass. I am also kicking ass in college football. You've got the Michigan shirt on. All right, let's talk about it. I love Sparty. I love Jonathan Smith. He did it again for me last week, but I did not bet him this week. I think this line is just a little too low. I wish I would have got the 5 early in the week. Now we started to even get down to 4. I don't have the WagerTalk odds screen open right in this browser at this moment. I apologize for that. But what are we seeing? Are we even seeing 3.5s pop up at this point? Nobody wants anything to do with Michigan, do they, BP?
Nor should they. Michigan stinks. I told people before the year that this team was going to stink. They lost everything. And, I mean, they struggle to throw a forward pass. They're juggling 3 different quarterbacks. None of them are any good. Kind of piggybacking off some of the conversations you had with VR in the previous segment, this is a situation you alluded to it, Kelly, where if you like the dog, I think you just missed your opportunity. Michigan State, the one concern I have is, are you buying high on them? They did have a heck of a performance against Iowa. So at this number, I don't want to back Michigan State. This was a pass for me. I thought about it. It just sort of missed the cut on my Power 5 that I do elsewhere here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So it was dog or pass, but you cannot play. My God, laying points with Michigan, I cannot believe that the way they got steamed up against Illinois last week on the road. Now, it was a phony result. I'll say that. They outgained Illinois. I don't even want to talk about Illinois, how phony they are. But Michigan's
awful. Well, now you have to. Well, you just threw out allegations of being phony. Now you got to tell me why they're phony.
Illinois? What? Come
Let's hear
on.
it.
All right. First of all, am I a little bit?
I sat at the bar last week with Errol Epstein, right next to an Ohio State fan. And the guy's chirping about Illinois. And I go, I don't know. I like Brett Bielema. I like him as an underdog, but I stayed off this game. And Illinois just cruised. I like Brett Bielema in the underdog role. This is a lot of points. And I think that is very telling because I am not that high on Oregon. So tell me why you think they're phony.
Okay, well, they've stolen a couple games, right? They stole the one against Kansas. I know that brought you a lot of joy when they did that. I thought they kind of stole the game against Nebraska. The game against Penn State, though, is the one we want to focus on, I think, as far as handicapping this Oregon game, Kelly. They only lost 21-7. They closed as a big dog there as well, and they did cover. But they were statistically dominated in there. And if you're looking to bet Oregon, Illinois, I talked about this game on the Power 5. Check this out, guys. Top 25 matchups. When the favorite is laying 21 or more, the favorite is 16-6 against the spread. The sports books are telling you something when they have a big spread like this in a top 25 matchup. It would be Oregon or pass for me on this game. Look, I admit it. Before the season, I didn't think Illinois was even going to be a bowl team. I thought Bielema was going to get fired. That's a horrendous take. It has not aged well at all. My Indiana take did age well. I said they would easily go over 5.5 wins, and they already have. But I think Oregon rolls here. I think this Oregon team is for real, actually, Kelly. I was a little I downgraded them too much early on. I think they roll. I think Illinois struggles to score points in this game.
Okay.
Maybe team total under is another look.
Noted. Well, before the K-State KU game, I will know the results of my 3-team moneyline parlay. All of them start. I never look at the times whenever I give it, right? I just bet my games. And I just realized they'll all be over by 5 o'clock or so Central Time. So that's going to be great. Jason Sanchez wants to know, can Vanderbilt do it again? I don't know. Massive letdown spot here for the Horns.
It is. This is one of those, as far as the quote unquote big games go, this was the first one I scratched off my list. I hate when this happens. I come on the show, people want to know about like the game that I hate the most. But this is kind of it because, look, you don't know what Texas's mindset is coming off the loss to Georgia. They played very poorly in that game. Vanderbilt, you have to wonder how close we are to the peak of the market. Obviously, their resume is well documented. We know what Pavia does as a double-digit dog, even going back to his time in Las Cruces with New Mexico State. I'll say this about these two teams. What I would do, I kind of want Vanderbilt to keep this competitive and then fade them next week at Auburn. That's kind of what I'm looking at doing with Vandy right now, because I think that'll be a good spot to fade Vandy there. Here, I mean, obviously I'm not laying, you know me, Kelly, I'm not laying this number on the road with Texas.
No.
But I feel if you wanted to cash in with Vanderbilt this year, I think maybe we missed our opportunities. I don't know.
I cashed in against Kentucky. So you're probably right. I mean, now they're getting a lot of love. I mean, what was this line over the summer? In the 30s, 31?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, close to that, certainly over 24 and a half, you would reckon. So yeah, it's you're kind of betting at the height of Vandy. Mm-hmm.
And you never want to bet on teams at their highest. I like to bet on teams at their lowest, which is Texas. Yes. This might be a buy low spot for Texas. That being said, let's talk some of these other questions you guys have here in the chat. I apologize. I'm on my laptop, so we got to put it on the screen. Oregon State versus Cal. Okay, this is a good one, BP, because Oregon State was on my initial list to make my underdog parlay, but I love this Cal team. I love Justin Wilcox, but as an underdog, I don't know. Their season has been great, right? They had some nice outright wins at Auburn. They should have beaten Miami. And after that Miami loss, I kind of thought, all right, let's just leave this team alone for a little bit. But boy, did I look really hard at the Beavers. Ultimately ended up passing on this one.
Yeah, I really want to bet Cal at some point because they're so much better than their record. You look at these games they've lost the last 4 weeks. They lose to Florida State. I took Florida State in that game because why not? At that was Florida State. You talk about taking a team at their low point. That was Florida State maybe at their low point. You mentioned the Miami game for Cal. They're up big at home. College game days in the house. They blow the big lead, lose by 1. Then they lost by 2 at Pitt, a Pitt team that's still undefeated. Last week, they lose by 1 against NC State. I kind of feel so. Part of the reason I knew Louisville was going to come back, this is kind of weird thinking, but it's just what I do. Part of the reason I knew Louisville was going to come back last night, and I'll make the connection here in a second, is Louisville I felt was due to win a close game. That's why I wanted the 7.5 in my back pocket with BC. In this game, I feel Cal, after 4 close losses, assuming they haven't quit and are just not mentally broken, I feel they're due to win a close game. So what does that mean? We would take the points with Oregon State. Oregon State has failed to cover 3 in a row, but they were favored in 2 of those games. This Oregon State team's not as good as previous editions. Look no further than last week when they couldn't cover as a 6.5-point home dog. Normally they're money in Corvallis, but this reeks to me like a pretty close game. I would lean towards taking the points with the Beavers.
I did too, but ever since Jonathan Smith left and now is at Michigan State, he's my new favorite underdog coach over there. All right, Preston Rayburn wants to know, Nebraska getting waxed today or they cover the 26.5. I don't know what to make of this team, BP. You live in Ohio, but you're wearing a Michigan sweatshirt, so you can't possibly be an Ohio State fan. Here's what I knew was going to happen at some point in time this year. Will Howard was going to have a bad game or something wonky was going to happen, and the Buckeyes fans were just going to obliterate him. And that's what they did. And I'm like, I understand part of that game was his fault. But, like, let's be real. Like, there was 4 quarters. Yes, that last 5 seconds. Yes, Dan Lanning ran a trick play as well, kind of screwed things up. But Ohio State was rocking and rolling previous to that. Then they lose at Oregon. Now they're off a bye. This has got to be a good right spot for the Buckeyes. But they have Penn State on deck. Make this one kind of make sense because I ultimately didn't even really spend much time on it. But from a situational standpoint, I find it rather intriguing.
The Buckeyes are the top team among the top teams in the country that I think we know the least about because they only really have one interesting data point, right? The loss to Oregon at what point? And then I don't think, people, I live in Ohio. Again, you're not going to find someone who dislikes Ohio State living in the state of Ohio more than me. So I heard all the chatter after that game. People were furious with Ryan Day. They wanted him fired. They hated Will Howard. I was like, guys, it was a 1-point loss in Eugene. It's not the end of the world. You can get it back maybe in the Big Ten championship game. I was really worried. So normally I might look at this, say, okay, I don't know about Ohio State. They've got Penn State on deck. This is a lot of points with the Nebraska team that a few weeks ago people thought was turning a corner under Matt Rule. But what has me concerned about the Cornhuskers, Kelly, is I don't know if you caught any of the second half of that game against Indiana last week. It was out of hand. They just flat out quit in that game. That's not a good look. I mean, the Indiana back had 4 touchdown drives against them. And this was a defense that had been playing exceptionally well in the early part of the season in Lincoln. So I don't know what to make of either of these teams right now. Yes, I could see Ohio State looking to make the big statement ahead of Penn State. I could also say, hey, maybe, they're peeking ahead and they get caught. Look at, I think we're going to know early, though. So if you're going to play Ohio State, you know what I would do? I would cut the game in half and play first half, because I don't think if they're not covering early, as my friend Mark Zinno would say, they're not covering late.
Touche. Very good point, BP. Some of these teams are better second half teams. There you go. This is an interesting one because I don't follow the MAC, and I just did a show with my buddy Guns this morning, and this is also his best bet this week. I couldn't name a single player or the head coach because, well, it's Bowling Green. So Doc6498 wants to know, how about Marco's best bet, Bowling Green?
Well, lucky for you, Kelly, I am one of the 5 or 6 most famous graduates from the Mid-American Conference. I like this one as well. Gave it out on the Power 5. Bowling Green is the play. This is the worst Toledo team in many, many years. I don't know if there's been a more Jekyll and Hyde team in the entire country than Toledo. They beat Mississippi State, and everyone's like, whoa, Toledo beats an SEC, but Mississippi State's the worst SEC team, let's be honest. They've also lost to Western Kentucky. They were really lucky last week, Toledo, to win. It was a game against Northern Illinois. Both teams were playing backup quarterbacks. I'm not making this up. Northern Illinois went 2 for 8 on 4th down. They turned the ball over on downs 4 times on the Toledo side of the field. Meanwhile, Bowling Green, this is a team that has competed against Penn State. They have competed against Texas A&M. They had 4th quarter leads in their other 2 losses, Northern Illinois and Old Dominion. This is a rivalry game. It's called the I-75 rivalry. These 2 schools are not far apart. Absolutely, I would take Bowling Green, and I would probably sprinkle a little bit on the money line. This is, again, the weakest Toledo team I think we've seen it in many, many years. The MAC wide open. I think Bowling Green can win the conference.
All right, I'm texting my Survivor partners right now. We're kind of getting in an argument, so you guys will have to excuse me. Kelly, can we ask Bryan what dogs he likes today before he takes off? Before you do that, Bryan, and so I can argue with my Survivor guys, that gives me an extra 90 seconds. Tell me what you've got over at WagerTalk.com. You and I are both on 13-2 runs, except for I'm 13-2-1. I had a really ugly push. So just saying, we are neck and neck right now. But give us your dogs. Also tell us where everybody can find you over at WagerTalk. Tell me about Mark Zinno's show, and that'll get me enough time to send my argument and stop overthinking it and take the goddamn Denver Broncos.
Okay, well, excuse me. All right, yes, 13-2 run. Going back to last season, 42-18 our last 60 after the 3% winner on Boston College wire to wire last night. Great start to the week. Guys, I've got 3 plays locked and loaded at WT.buzz/BP for Saturday. 2 of them kick off at noon Eastern. So if you're not down already, well, the clock is ticking. You only have about 15 minutes left to get down on the 3-pack. Because the third game is kind of close to being out of range for where I like it, I'm not going to be reposting it. So if you want this card, again, you got 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes to get down to get all 3 plays. Also, NFL tomorrow, just my second 5% play of the season. My first 5% play in NFL was 3 weeks ago. Denver Broncos, who Kelly just mentioned. I was on them as a short favorite against the Raiders. They destroyed the Raiders. My only 5% play in college this year was Texas Tech over Arizona State last month. So it's very rare that I have a 5% play. We've got one locked and loaded for the NFL on Sunday. And you heard the name Mark Zinno. Because I am one of the nicest people in the history of WagerTalk.com, I will promote his 5% play. He asked me to do that. Mark has a 5% play today in college football. He would love you all to buy it, and you should buy it because Mark was 4-0 last week in college, 10-1 the last 3 weeks. Mark and I do.
You're such a nice
I know
co-host.
I am. Yes, I am.
Sweet.
Yes, that's what I said. And speaking of co-hosts, of course, Mark and I do the morning wager Monday through Friday every week. I don't think there is a show with more rising popularity than the Morning Wager. It is just complete insanity for 20 minutes until Joe Ranieri cuts us off and says the show is over. We even give you 3 picks during those 20 minutes, which is great.
Yeah, listen, I love it. All right, give me some of your dogs. We're getting out of here in 3 minutes. So rattle off some of the dogs that maybe didn't make that WagerTalk card that you do like. We'll call them leans. We'll call them pseudo likes, like very close to making those premium selections. But they got to be underdogs, damn it.
Okay. I think I heard you mention North Texas early in the show. I know VR said he didn't like them. I do like North Texas. This is a high-scoring underdog. Tulane is off one of the phoniest wins on the board last week against Rice. They needed a 14-0 fourth quarter to win that game. They were +5 in turnovers, so I like North Texas early. If you want an absolutely atrocious, hold-your-nose, YOLO underdog, let's take Kent State +19.5. Against Western Michigan. A couple weeks ago, I got away with highway robbery when Kent State backdoored Ball State at home. I think they can backdoor Western Michigan as well. Western Michigan laying 19.5 is insane. All 3 of their MAC wins this year, Kelly, have come by a total of 20 points. So I think Kent State can keep that one close. Western Michigan, their 3 wins, they've given up 40+ in 2 of those wins, and they gave up 500 total yards to Akron. There will be no defense played in that game. Give me the points there. I mentioned Bowling Green. I like Wisconsin. I did a standalone video on that elsewhere. You guys can check out a big primetime game tonight. A standalone video here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. I like Wisconsin plus the points. I know we're kind of buying high on the Badgers there. They're 3-0 ATS. Penn State 0-3 ATS their last 3. But I like the 6.5 in Camp Randall. It's very rare you can get that many points with Wisconsin there. I like a lot of dogs in the Big 12. I think West Virginia, I guess, is Garrett Green not playing? Is that what I can gather by this line? I don't know. Brent Brennan stinks. I would never lay this number of points with Brent Brennan. I think he was a bad hire in Arizona. I don't think he lasts long in Tucson. And I kind of like Cincinnati plus the points against Colorado. Maybe it's time to start fading Coach Prime yet again.
Oh, boy. All right, BP. Well, we appreciate you. I'm using my hotspot on my cell phone because Aunt Helen has garbage Wi-Fi. I probably should have sent a speed test in for that. We appreciate Art DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook. Yanni the Greek over there in the steam room. You guys can always check him out on Saturdays and Sundays. And of course, Bryan Power, the Power 5, and the Morning Wager, of course, with their Mark Zeno. All right, guys, kickoffs in 15 minutes. We got a ton of action this morning. At least my entire card is this morning. Good luck. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on WagerTalk's Last Call.